Welcome to Jam Sessions. Today we're talking to Alejandro Rutty, and welcome to our show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
And you have your son with you here as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rutty.
So Rutty, nice. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about composition and just your process for how you come up with some of these pieces.
Mostly, I have these sounds on my head all the time. Right, and I sing into my phone, I go into the piano and play and record myself, or I play into the instrument. And eventually, the melody stays. Eventually, I make it work. And then the hard work starts of trying to set the environment, a musical environment, on which this melody evolves and lives. And then I go about writing it down. I'm a classically trained composer, used to write for orchestras and things like that. So when I compose for bass, it's a bit of a different process, but it ends up often, in the page, like other music I have written.
So you bring up a good point. So you're a big composer. You've done work for orchestra and all that. So
yes, I wouldn't say big.
Why bass?
Yes, why bass is the question.
Yeah.
Well, a few years ago, I discovered that modern basses have this whole world of resonance that the old basses I used to play in my youth didn't. If you play those that have more strings, like I play a 6-string as opposed to a 4 or 5-string, then suddenly you could play it as a solo instrument and you can do polyphony. You could do melody and accompaniment at the same time. And it opened up the possibility of playing music by myself and allowing unconscious preferences to come through in the act of playing, as opposed to me having to explain to others, this is how I want you to play this note. I would be just naturally playing it myself that way, and then I would learn, oh, so that's what my music is. And this is where I am in the process, and that is why bass. And that I have been doing all sort of music just for bass, and for bass and other instruments, oftentimes other basses. So I get to play the same tunes that we played together today with other musicians. I have played it with a tuba player, with a bass clarinet player, bass flute player, you name it. And it also it's a way to make community.
Well, I noticed also a lot of your music has a very atmospheric quality to it. Do you
Yes.
start a process with atmosphere, or does melody usually come first?
Melody comes first. It's like the core. And then I decide in which atmosphere that melody lives. Being a composer that grew up during the avant-garde days, when we were encouraged to do music that was always busy and always complicated, it is a breath of fresh air now to try to shed all the extras and go to the essence of what my music should be, which ends up being pretty atmospheric.
So what's it like playing with your father here?
It's a lot of fun. I learn a lot, and I would say, because I write music as well in different contexts, but a lot of what he said there about how melody is the core of music and it is what one remembers about any piece of music typically, has affected how I think of music as well. And I think it's been an honor to work with him and do all these things together. It's been great.
Nice. So are you classically trained as well?
Yes, I started from a young age. I played violin. I left that for a bit, and then in middle school I picked up the double bass, and I started taking classical double bass lessons, going through Baroque repertoire, and eventually I started branching out into popular music, but always at home there was the education from my parents who are musicians as well. So lots of musical lives parallel in my life.
Nice. So this is a question for you guys, because a lot of musicians that we have are not so classically trained. Do you find yourself sometimes maybe constricted with, the training and just because the theory, knowing so much about theory, do you find sometimes those rules kind of get in the way, or?
They totally get in the way at some point. So it's very typical, and I teach music composition at UNCG, so I see it in my students. You have a perfectly creative young person, and then you throw at them all the theory and all the stuff, and that creativity gets flattened for a bit, and then it clicks, and they can have the creativity and the technique. And for me, that I'm much older, of course, I'm past the moment in which the technique and the theory affects my music making to some extent. And it's always your fight to find what your true music is, and that never stops. And you see it on all artists in the past, that their music when they were 20 sounded like one way, when they're 40 differently, and when they're 60 differently. It means that they still keep trying to find out what their true music is. So am I. But I think that I'm relatively free from the shackles of music theory.
And how do you feel about that?
Well, for one thing, I think it's an interesting relationship those two things have. My creativity is based in what I listen to, what I like to hear. The only reason I'd like to ignore, or the only reason I would ignore theory, is if I know the theory. I can choose to not do certain things, but consciously, so I'm aware of the structures that exist in music. But I can still use those useful structures. They can provide a basis for creativity as well. So it goes both ways. It can help, but also not help. I think you said it better. But yeah, I don't think it constricts me, but I'm still in the process of learning. So there are points where I'm not satisfied with my creative output, and I'm trying to do something that's based in theoretical structures, but then sometimes it helps out in some ways.
Nice. I think that's a good point. I just feel like for both of you, it just seems like you just never stop learning is the secret to growing and continuing to grow on this journey. What's in store for this year? Do you have any big compositions you're working on?
Well, I just finished recording this Y Bass 2 album, and it's just out, so my plan is to do many performances. And I have lined up some performances, including performances in Louisiana and in Valencia, Spain, over the summer, always with this material. And then, as a classical composer, I always have some piece that somebody wants me to compose for them, and I still do that very happily. But I'm focusing my creativity and on this bass stuff for now. We'll see where it takes me.
Right on. Well, I hope it's a fruitful year for you.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. It was lots of fun.